Hello everyone. Okay, back again. All right. I just want to do a quick run through of the 7-year tribulation. The 7-year tribulation began on October 9th, 2009. Obama was in Washington DC, and Norway, the Nobel Peace Prize was awarded to Obama on the 9th of October 2009. Exactly 1,260 days later, 3.5 years later, brings us to the date of the 22nd of March 2013, the day that Obama stood in Israel in the Church of the Nativity, the sanctuary fortress of the book of Daniel, or as it says in the book of Matthew, chapter 24, the holy place where he ought not to stand. He stood there where the protocol is to go down into the grotto and get down on your hands and knees at the altar where they say Christ was born. At least this is where the place that they have kept as the place of remembrance for Christ and his birth, being the Church of the Nativity in occupied Bethlehem, Palestinian territory. Okay, so that happened on the 22nd of March 2013. And then from there on, further into this 7-year period, this covenant made with many, Daniel 9, chapter 9, verse 27. We forward on 13 months, well, the 1,260 days on from there. So the next 3.5 year period brings us to 1st of September 2016. And the final 1290th day going on to the 1335th day of the book of Daniel, chapter 12, brings us to November 11th, the 11th of November 2016. So going back to the 22nd of March 2013, the day that Obama stood in the Church of the Nativity, the holy place where he ought not to stand. If we forward exactly 13 months on from that date, it brings us to April of 2014, the beginning of the blood red moon cycle. April 15th, last year, 2014, was the first blood red moon of this time period in this century. Okay, 13 months on from the day that Obama stood where he ought not to stand. And now we're in an 18-month cycle from April 2014, the first blood red moon, to the last blood red moon of September 28th is an 18-month cycle. And as I've just previously stated, the last blood red moon on the 28th of September marks a period of 66 years and 6 months. Now let me read to you chapter 13 of Revelation, verse 18. 13 and 18, see? Here is wisdom, let him that hath understanding count the number of the beast, for it is the number of a man, and his number is 666, or 666. Now, this falls perfectly in line with what I've just read. From the halfway point, the 3.5 year period, we have 13 months to the beginning of April, the first blood red moon of 2014, through to the last blood red moon 18 months later on the 28th of September, and that marks an overall time period of 66 years and 6 months of blood red moons since April 13th, 1949, the first blood red moon. Now let's continue on from there to the 1335th day of Daniel chapter 12 and wrap all of this up, the 15th of November. Another 1318 plays out perfectly. So, from the 28th of September, the last blood red moon, forward 13 months, and exactly 18 days into that 13th month, we arrive at November the 15th, the 1335th day. So since the halfway point of the tribulation, we have had a 13-month, 18-month period of time marked by the blood red moons, and then we've had a final 13-month, 18-day period where from that last blood red moon to the end of the Daniel count, where the wrath of the Lamb and the wrath of God will fall. Let that sink in for a minute. The wrath of the Lamb, the wrath of God, the trumpet judgments and the bowl judgments, the remaining judgments of the book of Revelation, will fall in that 13-month, 18-day period, which is pretty close to 1 year. The day of the Lord's recompense, which is Isaiah chapter 34, verse 8. I do recall. Let me just double check that. I have my King James Bible here. Isaiah chapter 34. Yes, for it is the day of the Lord's vengeance and the year of recompenses for the controversy of Zion. There you go. A year. Well, 13 months, 18 days. Now, all I'm going to say now is that the elite, Obama, Pope Francis, they're following the book of Revelation, the book of Daniel, and every other book that from the minor prophets of the Old Testament that give the script for the end days, for the last days, up until the return of Jesus Christ to gather his church. And they're following that script emphatically, perfectly. Okay? They're following it to the 9th degree, fulfilling everything that is contained within those scriptures. And up until the last day of the Daniel count, they have mapped it all out just like they would have to if they're going to fulfill it, with the days already predetermined, mapped out so that they're fulfilling. So now God has to bring his end of the bargain, which is they know what the blood red moons and the solar eclipses that have been going on for 66 years and 6 months signify. So now that we're at the end of that last blood red moon solar eclipse period, come September this year in 2015, God now just has to fulfill his end of the bargain by bringing the wrath of the Lamb, the wrath of God upon the earth as remaining judgments. Now, the elite must believe that they're going to win this thing. Why else would they get together with Lucifer for the Battle of Armageddon? They think they've got a chance in winning this thing, overthrowing God Almighty from his throne. Well, Satan knows he's a defeated foe and he's not going to win. But he's convinced the people that have sworn allegiance to him that they will succeed if they but just follow his commandments and his leading. Well, they're going to be in for a rude shock. Very rude shock. All right, till next time. Thanks for listening.